items of the project out, and got that contract down from 15.5 to 14.1. The Section B lift station, we took out alternate deduct B1 from that contract. And in Section C, we awarded that as is. And then we also used city crews, mostly on the entry road, if I remember correctly. And so rather than pay full contractor price, all we had to do is buy the materials, and that's what that $120,000 represents. And then the rest of the project budget is there. An editor's note, for the city to be in the financial condition that we were in 2017, to be able to work through all the complex hurdles to award contracts for construction of a new wastewater treatment plant in January 2021, took creative teamwork, collaboration. We didn't have a choice. We had to get it done. The impact of the HCCO change order number 3 that you've been presented tonight, and Myers Amendments number 3 and number 4, the project contingency that we will have left to finish the project is just under $85,000. We know as we close out the project, there will be some additional change orders or amendments. One, flow equalization basin liner applied to the bottom and walls of the basins will be another change order coming in the near future of roughly $200,000, which will put us over $100,000 over this budget. And then we know we're going to have to adjust the budget item we have for construction and materials testing. Over the next few weeks, we will do a final review of this project and bring the additional change orders and the final budget to you. On the next page of the page I'm on is the budget, and it shows the budget when we awarded the contract back in January. The middle column in green shows the various change orders and amendments, and the adjusted contracts to date shows what the new amounts are. But even if we do 3% overrun on a $20.6 million project, that's roughly $620,000. I don't think we'll get anywhere close to that, but that's really not bad on a $20 million project with today's situation. And the city financial position is strong enough to cover any budget modifications where we were not in that position before. Now we have $7.5 million in reserves to make any adjustments that we might need to make this project. But back at the time we awarded this, we were just trying to figure out how to get the project started because we were under a time gun to get it started. Be glad to answer any questions, but I tried to explain the 3 change orders and give you some history of how complex this project was put together given our financial situation at the time.
Questions from the council?
Yeah, the riprap, is the site degrading?
So the riprap is along the slope on the back side of one of our roads that's right around the headworks of the lift station. Again, all the riprap was pulled from the project. All the sod was pulled from the very beginning of the project until the actual dirt work took place. And we've received a few rains, and we see where the worst erosion's taken place, and that's where we're placing
A lot of sand out there too.
in the flow equalization basins. That's kind of what Leroy kind of touched on. They're roughly 30 foot deep, and we're hitting into some pretty decent sand down in there, and that's probably where we'll see in the future another change order coming.
Are we gonna gravel that or blacktop the road out to it?
It's gravel going out to it, and then we'll be graveling the site around the lift station or the plant itself.
So this sod and the riprap were taken out of the original bid until we had a better idea of how much we really needed? Is that what I'm
Yes, sir.
hearing you say?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of how much.
We knew that we would need some, we just didn't know how much we would need until the actual site got cut and slopes were determined and
Okay,
where we're at today.
and why, what about the pump, this pump that has flexibility to be used? Is that something, is that a new, requirement? How did we miss that in our original bids or original specifications?
What has kind of brought this pump to light was we had an issue at one of our other lift stations where we had lost power, lost the backup generator, had to call multiple vendors, rental companies, trying to chase down a rental pump so we could pump sewage from that lift station, which is out on Division, up over the hill to about Hometown Rental. This pump, we felt the urgency of this pump. If that same situation was to occur with this lift station handling every bit of our town's sewage and having to get it pumped from this lift station up to our treatment plant, we felt was pretty important after we had that issue down on Division for a backup pump. This pump, again, would solve those issues at any of our lift stations. Could be used, as Leroy stated, on major water leaks, could be used currently out at our Cottonwood lift, our pump station out at the Cottonwood Creek, the intake out there, where we have two pumps. Currently, one of them's down.
So that pump could easily be taken out of other budgets, but since it'll primarily be housed at the wastewater treatment plant, we put it in this budget.
And it's not only just a pump, it comes with several sections of 6-inch flat lay hose, hydraulic gas-powered pack unit that operates the pump. So there's several pieces to this pump. It's a trailer-mounted pump, 6-inch pump.
Okay, all right. Other questions on that change order?
Well, first off, I was here during the whole process, and it was a nightmare project. It really, truly was, to get it done. Some others were here too. We all know that. But how come this $345,000 never came to us? I mean, we agreed at 270 grand on a project representative, and I know that's an estimate, but that's a far cry from 719. And what if we don't approve that?
We're required to have an inspector. We can't do it ourselves because of the limited manpower we have, so we had to have somebody do it. And so it was in the contract and the plan back from 2016 for Mars Engineering to do that. As I indicated, when that project estimate was done in 2016, or 2016, that was before the plant was even designed. And it was based on an estimate of roughly 525 calendar days. Well, when the final design was done, it was determined that the project would be 730 days, calendar days, so significantly more. And then, of course, this last change order adds 187. The work's been done. We owe the 615, which would be the first 340,945.50. We had so many moving parts. We knew we had substantial contingency, but technically, at the time we awarded the contract, we should have amended that amount at that time. But quite frankly, we had so many moving parts. You're dependent upon a lot of players in putting this together. it comes down to the final responsibility as the city manager. We should have done an amendment at that time, and so we are playing catch-up. But that work has been done, and we do owe that amount. And then amendment number 4 is just frankly to do the rest of the inspections through October 18th to finish out the project.
So we owe that amount, or we've already paid
We've
it?
already paid it.
Yeah, so we don't owe it, we paid it.
Correct.
Okay,
So-
we paid it without it coming to council.
I have a question.
That's a big nut.
On inspections, my limited experience in construction projects, nothing of this size, certainly. Inspections were done at certain stages of completion. But you're saying there's a representative of Myers out there every single day,
Correct.
watching every bit of work.
Correct, and that is a standard set, my understanding from OWRB when you borrow money from them.
Well, it looks to me like where's Bill? I got some questions for him, because it looks like they overbilled us anyway on this stuff. Because, I mean, I'm looking at, I got an average per day of $765 when we agreed at $514.
Well, I was
Okay,
gonna
but-
ask a similar question.
But if you take the 104,000, I haven't done that yet, and just to see what our daily rate is on this thing, divided by 187 is $556. So it looks like on the 345, we were gouged on that.
The problem is, when the estimate was done in 2016, it was based on the hourly rate of the inspectors in 2016.
Yeah.
I know, but their number, and I'm not hammering you, you broke your back getting this thing done, don't get me wrong. But the 104,000 that we haven't paid yet for the last 187 days is $556 a day, which is insane for an inspector to start with. I remember having issues with the 270 and the inspector costs.
It's $119 a day, if I remember right.
Okay, $104,000 divided by 187 days is $556 a day.
That's more than that, that's 210 days,
We've been overcharged big time.
210 days.
Are you saying that from 2016 till now, there was just like that much of a increase in that going rate? Is that what you're saying?
The rate and the number of days.
Number of days.
But we have done a spreadsheet that I'd be glad to show you on their billing and the number of days and that kind of stuff. And the billing is correct. It's just the rate went from 90 to, and then each year it would go up.
But it's-
If you actually look at the bills, they do calculate out. And I'd be glad to sit down and walk you through that.
And of course, the days basically about doubled,
Correct,
about doubled.
correct. And then, of course,
with
each
these
year,
amendments that we've just-
there's an increase in the cost of the inspector.
So a double whammy.
Correct.
Well, we got $525, or 525 days at 270,000. That's $514 a day, not $90 a day. Okay, and then we go to 345,000 for another 730 days. Okay, and I didn't even do that one, but it's nowhere near $100. Okay, the whole thing is $765 a day, average. We've been grossly overbilled on this, guys, and we paid it. Is what I see.
I think if I showed you the spreadsheet, it would show you the calculations, and I believe they are correct.
$473 on the 730 days, but yet it's $514 on the ones up there, and it's $556 on these.
Well, I think originally the estimate, that price, we can't really count on that at all. As far as the rate per hour and all that stuff, you can't really look at anything until you get down to the 730.
Eddie, have you looked at
Then
any of
you're
this?
looking at reality.
Because I'd like to have some questions if you've seen any of it.
Yes, sir, I have. I believe we were, and I was trying to get here now. The figure Leroy was quoting, estimated average cost per hour, at the $270,000 estimate was $90 an hour.
An hour, but I'm talking daily.
Yes, so $90 an hour, if you assume an 8-hour workday, there's $720.
Right.
$720 per day. In the time, the distance between 2016 to 2021, it went from $90 an hour to $120 an hour, so.
But that never came to council,
n-
is my understanding,
The-
because I don't remember that.
The contract done under previous city manager in 2016, the way it was worded as an estimate, and the agreement at that time was to pay for a full-time inspector every weekday throughout the project, and the 270 was just an estimate. So it was structured as an estimate, and it was a hourly billing, not a lump sum amount. So the way the contract was set up in 2016 by the previous city manager, and that went to the city council for approval, that was just a figure put in to have a holding place, but the agreement actually said that it would be whatever it would be, based on the hourly rate for that year, and the number of construction days.
Sorry.
But
So
we
it
don't have a
was-
copy.
It was approved, but it was in general terms.
But
not
we don't have, I get it, but we don't have a copy of that contract in here either to even refer to.
No, but it can be provided. It was a
Should
contract
be.
approved back in 2016 by the city council at that
But-
time.
A 2016 council can't, I mean, you can't bind a future council.
No, and you can't bind it over a year anyway.
I mean, you cannot,
The Public Works Authority can do multi-year contracts. City council cannot,
so the public works can go,
multiple years.
okay.
And that's why they can borrow money, because they can go multiple years. City council cannot.
But these still should have come to us, right?
It,
Because it didn't.
technically, the contract in 2016 provided for this. We should have brought it to you and done an amendment when we awarded the contract in 2021. We made an error there. We should have done that, but we already were contractually obligated to it. But it would have been easier if we would have brought it to you in pieces rather than lump sum. And I just tell you, there's just so many moving parts in this project that this is one piece that got overlooked until we went back and reviewed and got ready to close out the project. And we had the money in our contingency to pay it, but it would have been better if we would have brought you change orders along the way, which we didn't do.
Well, the other reality is, what the hell were our options at that point?
No.
I mean, at that point, we've got a contract here, we've got a requirement by the state to have a full-time professional inspector there. You know, I think our hands are kind of a little bit
Even if
tied
we'd have
anyway.
brought you multiple change orders along the way, it has still been the same result, but you'd have been better informed.
It's a procedural error, Steve, in a big way,
I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm just,
big time.
I'm just saying,
Not little.
right now, we can't correct that, number one.
Is the hourly just the rate plus materials, or?
Ask the question.
Is the hourly rate we were talking about, the 700, is that with everything?
daily.
included?
That's
Is that
daily.
daily, yeah. Is that including, is that just the rate for that inspector to be there?
Correct. With overhead. It's not his hourly rate, but with overhead, that's what it costs.
So that number is with material and everything, right? You say overhead.
Well, benefits, overhead from the company, just like any private business has overhead. That's all built in when you do a rate structure. You take what the hourly rate is for an employee, and then you add the benefits and the company's overhead to it, and that's all included in that $119. But as the mayor indicated, yes, there was a procedure flaw here, and it should be a learning experience for both the engineer and city staff. But it happened.
But the
Even if we
engineer should
didn't-
take some liability on this too. That's why I wanted Bill Myers to talk to.
I don't know that, yes, he has some responsibility, but I don't know it would change the cost.
I don't know that it would either. Why don't we have him here? That's the question. He's on the agenda, but he's not here. He just randomly, arbitrarily just says, I'm not showing up.
What I was getting at with my question was, and if you can help me understand, I'm probably just not understanding, but usually when I get like an estimate on the depot or whatever, or any kind of business venture, it's always assumed that, yeah, your days might go longer because they run into issues, and that's why it's an estimate, but I've never really seen that. I've never really had an agreement, and then what they tell me they're gonna pay for their rate is just thrown at me surprisingly and has just gone up because they want it to go up. I see materials because of inflation and I see days, but I've just never seen anybody go, yeah, I'll do it for this rate.
Any
And then just-
engineer that you work with, if you do a multi-year contract, their rates are adjusted annually based on consumer price index and other inflation indicators, just like we adjust our rates.
So that's normal, but,
Yes.
okay, that's all.
So,
I guess, my question is, given the cost overruns, what was your estimate at this point for cost overruns through completion?
If you look at the budget, which is, at the end of the report, we had built in
$900.
$941,000 to cover any cost overruns in contingency. And with these change orders, we will be using all of that, prior change orders and these, will be down to $85,000 in contingency. So the budget covers that, but we know there's at least two change orders yet that
Coming.
we'll probably be looking at.
or more.
There may be more, but I don't think they'll be significant. But I
Well,
don't
I
have a
mean,
crystal ball.
Given the fact that the best economists in the world are always wrong. Yeah, I mean, always wrong. I mean, they're really good at explaining what happened after it happens, but, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody could have seen the perfect storm of COVID and then a supply chain disruption to the extent that we saw over the last 5 years. And so I guess, you know, like, I don't think that a doomsday scenario is $85,000 at this point, given the fact that, you know, we've got just an enormous amount of runaway inflation at this point.
We're in a financial bind in 2017, so we had to piecemeal this project together like a puzzle. We had several challenges. We got it funded, got it started. We were close to getting a consent order mandate to do it. We didn't have any choice. The plant had reached the end of its life, mandated to have an inspector. And so the outcome would be the same, but you're right, it should have come to you all in pieces along the way, and it was an oversight that it didn't. And you can beat me up all day.
No, I'm not beating you up, I'm not beating you up, but Bill should have been here too,
I understand.
explaining his increases,
understand.
which he didn't, and he should take responsibility for that and eat the increase is what he should do.
I don't know that he should eat the increase
Well-
because it was in the contract in a way that it was open-ended.
No,
I
we're-
did not negotiate that contract. That contract was signed before I got here.
Yeah, but
And-
work didn't start till 3 years later though, so.
Correct.
You know, that's, and we've had a lot of meetings on this prior to work starting, a lot. And, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. Economists are always wrong. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, well, if we look at what Myers Engineer has charged just since I've been on council, I couldn't even tell you how much it is, let alone since its inception is probably 20, 30 million. Okay, and on top of that, I don't even know that we're allowed to spend $345,000 without council approval. By state statutes, are we? I think that's a problem. In my company, that happens, heads roll, you know, right across the board.
Bear in mind that every council meeting, every expenditure is in a report that you all get to look at. You don't formally approve it, but you get a report at every city council meeting that has all those expenditures in it for you to review if you want to review it. I'm
Just
not
'cause
saying
So
I guess we
So
wouldn't
these
think,
payments were in those reports?
yeah, so I wouldn't think to, given the trust I had in management, okay, seriously, now it goes to you. I wouldn't have thought that I would have had to get down to a line item basis to find basically almost 400 grand, you know? And then Kim, as the court clerk, shouldn't you have been bringing that to council?
City clerk.
I mean, the city clerk?
The amendments, change orders?
The overpayments here. There's a lot of overpayments that have happened that we weren't aware of.
I mean, the way I mean, the project was approved for $20 million, and we're within that budget. We're gonna spend $20 million on this project.
Yeah, but this one procedural error sucked up almost the entire contingency. That's a problem.
Which is my point. I don't know that $85,000 is sufficient to cover
not.
through 2025.
It's
And
no way.
it's not, that's not going to be sufficient to cover through 2025.
It's never gonna be.
No.
Because they weren't expecting there was not, in that 900 and some thousand contingency, 400,000 of that wasn't an expected pull on that contingency.
Yeah, fortunately, we're in a better financial position now.
And we are because of you, and I'll give you that.
We can do that. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses. I guess I'm saying, folks, here's where we are. I mean, we've already committed to this.
I don't think we have any choices at all.
No,
I-
we've already committed to it. We've learned a few lessons along
Yeah,
the
but
way.
But Myers Engineering,
All of us have learned.
I'm pretty
a few
confident
lessons
Myers
already.
Engineering knew bills were going out and weren't coming to council and getting paid.
Well,
Maybe we did it wrong, but we still had to do it.
still had to do it, and the bills are listed in our minutes. I mean, the financials of every bill that,
Like I said, I guess in the future, we have to go down with a fine tooth comb and look at every line item of 250 different lines every council meeting.
No, I think this was just like you said, I think it was just a mistake
No, it was not a mistake. It
Okay.
was blatant
by him.
blatant
by
what?
the whole, by
Blatant
somebody.
what?
By
Brian,
blatantly
blatant what?
by blatantly overpaying without coming to council.
You're making it sound like this is almost a fraud thing. Well, it isn't. It's what our contract initially, which Leroy didn't have anything to do with, had flexibility in it. I'm not defending it, I'm just saying,
Well, you
here's
kinda are,
the facts
you kinda are, okay, defending it, about
I'm
100%.
saying that the contract was there, it had flexibility to move
But the
upward.
contract was not-
Just let me finish.
Okay, go ahead, finish.
The contract was there. It had flexibility to increase the, in this case, the engineering fee. It was a fee that was mandated by the state, had to have it done. It's a hell of a lot of money. Understand that.
This is not a fee mandated by the state, this is a fee mandated by Myers Engineering. And on top of that, it tripled. It went from 270,000 to 720,
Well, I think it,
okay? And it was paid out of the contingency.
because it's a combination of the fee and the number of days involved. Agreed? Okay.
I do agree. There's 187 days well, none of those we approved. Okay, I mean, it's
I don't
coming to us
disagree with
after
that.
the fact,
I
my
don't
friend.
disagree with that, but it's
Okay.
done.
And so what is your input on this? Because you're the new guy.
I think this has been a learning experience, and we've all observed, and we know going forward, we're going to implement some tracking measures to prevent it in the future.
What would, example, like, what do you mean?
We're gonna track each invoice.
So each increments, like we were saying?
Yeah, every invoice that comes through, no matter what it is, I've already sent out a template to staff last week. We will track each invoice, and every pay request will come before the council as an agenda item, not just in your claims, so.
What happens if we deny one of those? Like, yes, I'm not disagreeing with Brian
We
at all.
can't deny the 345,000 they already paid.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with Brian, but I'm kind of like, I'm asking what the mayor is asking, is like, so if you do bring them to us in increments, but we're under what is our actual options there?
We will.
In this case, your option, the outcome would be the same because you had to have an inspector. We didn't have any other options other than Myers to do the inspection. We're shorthanded. We don't have staff to do it.
There's only one company in the state that can do the inspection.
We couldn't have
Yeah,
like
it's not just
haggled with him
shorthanded, you
about
gotta
it
be
at all?
certified to do these inspections.
Pardon?
You have to be licensed and
Right,
certified to
but
be an
I-
inspector.
Correct.
And you have to be
I just-
approved by the Oklahoma Rural Water.
We've
I'm-
been through this before.
And yes, I mean,
I had a problem
you
with
could,
$270,000.
on other projects, you
serious.
could do, shop around for engineers, but remember, under state statute, on professional services like architects, engineers, building design, trade skills, it is not a bid process. You take their resume and their presentation and say, if you have 5 engineers make a proposal to any city government, you rank them, a point scale. And whoever is the most points, then you award the contract to them if you are comfortable that you reached a fair price. If you think they're exorbitant, then you go to the second choice and negotiate with them. But it's not a bid process. You don't know the company, if you turn down company A or number 1, the company B is gonna be any cheaper when you go to them. And if you look at FEMA and other state entities we've looked at in the past on what their scale is for engineering services based on different size projects, Myers Engineer has been within that scale of what is acceptable based on studies done by federal entities. So we've had no reason in the way the city works with Myers Engineer is they do a selection process every 5 years and sign a contract with Bill as a master agreement, and then they do task orders on each one of those projects. That current contract was renewed in '21, runs through July of '26. Now, it is, because it's with the city council, it's subject to termination. If you give 60 days notice before August, you can terminate that on an annual basis. Otherwise, it automatically renews. But we have, in '21, went through a selection process and picked Mill Byers as the engineer. We have found that when you compare him to other sliding scales, FEMA, others, that he's in the competitive range. Myers has been engineer for the city for over 20 years, maybe longer, has drawings, knows all of our utility lines, and if you selected somebody else, you would also be paying for a learning curve because they would have to learn a lot of things about our community that they already know.
Yeah, they know, they've looked up, they know every bone about us. There's no question.
It's not a question of that. I'm just saying, like, if it is brought to us in these increments, and we already have a contract with them, they bring it to the increments, well, if we see increases in these increments and we don't agree with it, I mean, what course of action can we do? You can just say sorry.
In this particular case, you really have no option. It's a question that you should have been better informed. The option would not change. You would still be paying this, but you would have been better informed.
But
And that's our fault.
I'll refer to your answer a moment ago in which you said I didn't negotiate the contract. Would you have negotiated that contract?
If I had negotiated the contract, I would have been more aware of the open-ended estimate on the inspection and would have been more attuned that it needed to be adjusted when we awarded the contract. But I guess it was an assumption on my part that that contract already covered everything. And we had so many moving parts on trying to figure out how to finance this, how to put it together, how we had to adjust, the bids came in higher, we had to adjust those. We just had so many moving parts. I think we addressed everything but this particular item. And yes, we could have structured it different, but I wasn't here in 2016.
Okay, so-
I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying, we're going, again, I am not looking at this from what's been done in the past. What I want is to know, like, what can we learn so that we don't do it in the future? And then my concern about the economics of the situation and the potential for cost overruns is, I just would like to know what is the worst-case scenario that we're going to have to plan for and attempt to find ways of covering future cost overruns. I mean, that's what I'm just looking prospectively, how do we go about planning? And, you know, I mean, we can look at the data from the past and see what the cost is and sort of look at a scatter plot and then project out from there. And so that's my concern, is I agree, like this, like there's, you know, this is, what's done is done. I want to know going forward what we can do
As
to
Mr.
mitigate.
Faulkner, I think this has been a learning experience. And I don't think that this scenario will play out again. I think in the future, the city council will be more aware of these type of things, so that there's an awareness. I don't know that it would change the course, but better informed would have been an improvement.
I just have one last thing, and it kind of goes back to, I'm not looking for blame here, okay? But you keep bringing up, I wasn't here in 2016, I didn't look at that contract, but you damn sure did all of the exceeded collective cost estimates in 2020, in December of 2020, that came to council. And on top of that, that was over $5.6 million, and there was none of this in there. So, you know, you obviously looked at somebody looked at the contract, because, I mean, you can't just come up with these cost estimates without going through the contract. That's all. And if there should have been changes to it, we should have made the changes then. And, again, I don't even know, and maybe there is none, but I don't even know the legalities of being able to write checks that big without council approval. So, that's where I'm at.
I have one more question. Considering we're this close to final, October, I mean, considering up to now, the materials that have doubled in price, we all know because of supply chains and COVID and all that, has the materials to finish this job, are they purchased and on site? Are they?
The only thing that we're aware of, on the one basin, we're going to have to beef up what was in the original contract, because the soil studies were different than what we anticipated. So it will take more of that product to.
Which is, we're talking about the riprap and that stuff there.
No, the
Oh.
$200,000 addition.
But mechanically, pumps and pipes and,
Flow equalization basin liner, applied to the bottom of the walls of the basins. It was anticipated what the makeup of the soil was when the project was originally done. After we dug it out, the soil type is a different mixture than what we anticipated, and so we're going to have additional materials to get what our minimum standards.
Right.
That's going to cost us about $200,000 to do that. I'm aware of
minimum standard
another
of compaction,
roughly $50,000
drainage or.
change. So right now, we got $85,000, and to my knowledge, we've got about $250,000 or more change orders. So with that, we'll be roughly $165,000 over budget. I don't have a crystal ball, there
Right.
may be other things we find between now and October, but to my knowledge, that's all we have on the horizon.
And
So-
that's the sandy soil that you're talking about. We're almost having double the amount of bentonite to mix with that sandy soil to produce
Farm.
a liner for the bottom of them FEP state ponds.
Gotcha.
And that was sort of an unforeseen.
So let me ask a question. It doesn't pertain to that. It pertains to voting on this thing. What are the legalities of voting on money spent that haven't came to council? Because council can be liable for certain issues, obviously. And we know already that we're voting on something that's already been done. So I want to know the legality of it. And I guess that may be you.
I don't think you have a choice. I mean, it's a contractual obligation that the city has. I agree that it should have come to council earlier. I agree with everything that's been said on that. But I don't think you want to create
But I can't see the contract to know that that's what it is. I don't have it in front of me. So I'm gonna have to vote to table this thing till we have copies of the contracts and look at the contracts and see where we're at.
and I think you have that option.
Yeah. So that's gonna be my motion, to table it till we look at the contracts till the next council meeting, and just, we can vote it then. It's already spent. It's not like that somebody's waiting to do work, because we've already spent it.
I would interject the change order number 3 for the additional items for HCCO. Those things do need to get ordered and stuff, so I would recommend that if you table anything, you table the 2 amendments to Myers, but at least approve change order number 3.
You mean, number
Item
one?
number 4.
Or is it
Item number 4, item number 4.
I would recommend you at least approve it.
Motion to approve.
Hold on, which one? I'm looking for item 4.
Item number 4 on the top of the page. Brian,
I was looking at this.
agenda item number 4.
On the first page,
Oh, okay.
Agenda item number 4.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second then to approve change order number 1. I'm
That's the
sorry,
one.
3. Change order number 3 for $411,575,000 to HCCO for the
And again,
water treatment plant facility.
but in that 411,000, I was fixated on other numbers at the time. That's for the sod, the riprap, the overhead
Correct.
coiling, the
Correct.
pump.
Correct.
Okay,
That's the things that are on the front page of.
yeah, we got a
of
motion
the
and a second
attachment.
then,
We have a
right?
motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
How votes, Rand?
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to move forward with, to approve change order number 3 for $411,575 to HCCO. Item number 5 then is discussion and possible action to approve amendment number 3 for Myers Engineering.
And I'm gonna make a motion to table that till we can have copies of the contract. Or table it to the next meeting.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Are there time elements that we're concerned about here?
They've already paid it, Steve.
that, it's already been paid, that amount. The next one, if it's not approved, I'm not sure how that's gonna affect our inspections, the rest of the project, I mean, for the next 2 weeks.
No, I'm just, if it'll bring peace to Brian, what's the 2 weeks?
I'm sure they won't quit inspecting it while they wait for a
No,
final answer, but,
Well, I mean, they've been paid, so how can they?
Well, not for them.
No, not on
item
6, they've
6.
not
For-
been paid.
That's to finish the project
They've been
out.
paid on item number 5. Yeah.
They're not gonna leave. They've overbilled us anyway.
So we have
That's
a
all there is
motion.
to it.
Is there any other
To table.
discussion on the motion to table
For both 5 and 6 is what I'm doing, but
2 weeks for 5 and 6?
yes.
You agree with it, the second?
Yes.
We can get a copy of the contract. We can have that tomorrow.
Any other discussion?
Do we have to vote on these separately, since they're separate agenda items?
I would suggest you do, yes.
Yeah.
I would.
All right?
To item number 5 first?
You want to amend your motion?
Amend item number 5 to table number 5
Agree with you?
for 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
To just, okay, we're just, amendment number, the motion is to amend, agenda item number 5.
Table.
Table it.
I'm sorry, table. Table, until the next city council meeting.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
Case,
How many times do I have to vote?
all votes are in.
Tells you how to vote. You don't even know how to
I voted 3 times.
By a vote of 6 to 1, motion carries to carry that item on to the next city council meeting with appropriate documentation.
Number 6, I make the same thing.
Item number 6, motion then is made to move that to the next city council meeting.
I would like Bill Myers here for
Is
that
there-
meeting if possible.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes by motion, by a vote of 6 to 1. That motion carries. Both those items, item number 5, number 6, to be on the next city council agenda.
The next Public Works agenda.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank
Next Public
you.
Works.
Thank
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Call to order our city council meeting of June 6th. Second item on the agenda is consent agenda items A through E. A is the approval of the city minutes of May 16th. B is the approval of the special city council minutes of May 30th. C is the approved resolution 2023-31 for the OMEG recognition program. D is approval of payment of invoices for HVAC, replacement of buildings, library, fire department, GPWA administration buildings, the amount of $139,700. And E is the approval of payment of invoices from Voss Lighting for lighting for the fire department in the amount of $6,340.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Is everything completed on all of it? Are they all, Tenny, is all these projects completed?
Are you talking about,
All these projects, I'm not familiar with all these
No.
projects, the lighting at the fire
Okay.
station, I don't.
No,
No.
sir, this pay request will be for work that has been completed.
Completed, okay,
That You're
that's-
paying
yeah.
for work that's been completed as a
Okay.
part of the contract that's already been approved. Yes, sir.
Okay, any other discussion? Submit your votes.
all votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to approve the consent agenda items A through E. Item number 3, discussion possible action to confirm mayor's appointment of Adam Ropp, Brian Bothroyd, and Grant Guthrie to the Finance Committee for a 2-year term expiring May 6th, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval, then to appoint Adam Ropp, Brian Bothroyd, Grant Guthrie to the Finance Committee for a 2-year term. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to confirm mayor's appointments of Jeff Taylor, Jim Case, and Tracy Williams to the Streets Committee for a 2-year term expiring May 6, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to appoint Jim Case, Jeff Taylor, Tracy Williams to the Streets Committee for terms expiring May 6, 2025. Item number 5, discussion and possible action by the City Council to confirm the appointment of Councilmember Adam Ropp to serve as the ex-officio member of the Historic Preservation Commission for a 2-year term expiring May 6, 2025.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to appoint, the City Council to appoint Adam Ropp to serve as executive ex officio member of the Historic Preservation Commission. Item number 6, discussion possible action to adopt ordinance number 3392, request to rezone property at 1102 West Mansour from R1 to R2. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a property that's located just north of Banner Park over on the west side. As you indicated, they're looking to rezone it to R2. The applicant wants to put 2 single-family residences on the lot, and obviously it would need to be rezoned to R2 for that. Just to add, this was a property where we had a couple houses at one time, and we had 2 different abatement processes, and got all that torn down. And so not only is it good to see it redeveloped, but we also got all the liens paid off on it for all the abatement we had. So this is another one of those success stories, if you want to say. The Planning Commission recommended approval 4-0 to recommend approval of the request from R1 to R2.
Is this north of Banner?
Yes,
That's the two-
it's right on
okay.
that corner of 10th and Main
Okay,
Street.
that's what I
Yep.
thought.
So
Yeah,
moved.
that's a great-
Second.
A motion and a second. Were there any citizen
None.
comments back?
None.
None. Hold on. Okay, any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to adopt ordinance number 3392 to rezone that property at 1102 West Mansour from R1 to R2. Item number 7, approve award bidding, award bid number 2023-2, demolition and site clearance to K&M Wrecking for demolition on 320 West Vilas and 414 South Drexel for a total of $12,300, and Roughnecks Industrial for the demolition of properties at 310 South Capitol, 423 East Grant, and 1008 East Springer for a total of $19,100. Dan?
I was just going to add, obviously this is from our dilapidated structures resolution that came back in March. As you saw, there were 16 properties. 11 of them have either gotten their building permits or in the process or had self-compliance with demolition. There's a couple of them that may come about in the near future depending on how that goes, but once again, we've had a lot of voluntary help on both the fixing up side and demolition side, so it's nice that we don't have to always tear as many down in that. But as you indicated, this will be a total of 5 houses for $31,400.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval of the council then to award bids number 2023-02 to K&M Wrecking and Roughneck Industrial. Item number 8, city manager report.
Yes.
Eddie?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'll try to be brief. We continue to monitor the water levels at both the lakes. For some information / history, Liberty Lake from February to May, we've been pumping out of the Cottonwood into Liberty to try and bring that lake level up. From February to May, we have brought the level up by about 5.5 feet. Tenny, is that? Yes, sir. Okay. We've also seen Lake Guthrie, although it has had, we have had some rain last couple of weeks. We had 4 inches 2 weeks ago. It only came up a foot, so we're still 7 foot below the spillway. We continue to monitor that. We're looking at additional opportunities for water sources and what we need to do in the future to prevent an issue like this. Looking at historical data out at the Public Works Authority, the last time that the lake levels were anywhere close to what we're seeing today was 2011. So in 2011, Liberty Lake was 10 feet below, and Guthrie Lake was 8 feet below. So prior to 2011, you saw a little bit of an issue, nowhere near as bad in 2007. So we're seeing 2007 to 11, there's not much of a trend there. 2011 to now, you've got 12 years. So we are working on some alternatives in the future we will be bringing to you at some point. Off the cuff, you can expect an additional pump to go out at the Cottonwood Creek. and then an additional pump at the water treatment plant that's utilized for backwashing the filters. So we've got 2 of those pumps. They are supplying all of the water for the city, and so we'll need backups for each of those. We want to be prepared. But those pumps run 24 hours a day. It does not make sense to not have a backup ready to go. The airport director position, we are moving forward with a candidate. After a couple of interviews, we've got a 3rd interview scheduled this Friday. I believe we've got a good, solid candidate, so look forward to that. Fire chief marshal, the application period did close on Monday. We received a total of 6 applicants, 4 of which we are going to interview, 2 internal candidates. That interview will take place next week sometime. And then lastly, I want to give a couple of shout outs to the staff that have been working on some events over the weekend, Red Brick Nights. Shonda, Justin, and the team, they've done a great job with that. As well as Friday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I happened to receive an email, the mayor got it as well, from the Oklahoma Municipal League about additional funding opportunities for energy efficiency available to municipalities. This email came in Friday afternoon about 1:43. Deadline Monday at 5. So, Team Guthrie did what Team Guthrie does. Justin, Jesse, Liz, as well as Lynn over at the Capitol Publishing Museum and a few others worked pretty quickly. They got us everything we needed to at least submit a letter of intent to apply, got us in the first round, so we'll see. We're hopeful. The minimum amount was approximately $200,000, and we submitted close to $400,000. So that's additional HVAC upgrades, City Hall, the airport, and then Capitol Publishing Museum. So that's all I've got for now.
Keep it up, man, keep it up.
Hey, it is not me, it is the staff. So we're
Great.
working as a team. So,
Good news.
thank you.
Okay, and hope we get those grants. Okay? Item number 9, comments from council. Councilman Case.
79 years ago was D-Day. A lot of people died that day on Mile Beach. Just keep those things in your mind. It's easy to forget.
Councilman Guthrie.
Nothing tonight.
Councilman Guthrie.
I just had a couple of things. After the city council workshop and training, I had some questions, and I didn't know if anybody else had questions. We didn't really have time for a lot of questions during that period because everybody, was scheduled until noon, and so if nobody else has questions, I can just ask Eddie and the city attorney. But if other people have questions, it might be useful to schedule another follow-up on that training so that people can ask questions. Also, when I went on city council previously, part of the training that they did, that Brett Jones did, that I thought was helpful was he actually took the new council members out to all of the city facilities so that they could, understand what's going on, for example, at the wastewater treatment facility, so you have some working knowledge when people call and ask about,
We did that a few
hundreds
years
of
ago.
thousands of dollars.
When
And
I came on, we did that.
I think that's useful to, have some idea of the city. There's also, I have questions about the gas tanks out at the airport. Those have been brought up to me by constituents and users of the airport and the concern there and the FBO situation. So if I could get a report on that, an update, I would appreciate it. And I think that was all I had. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Rock.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, staff. I know you all worked extra hard on this, trying to get this all together. Sorry we didn't get it passed, but we'll get it at the next meeting. And thank you, Eddie. I appreciate what you're doing too, bud. I know it's tough. You're getting thrown into the fire, but I think you're doing an excellent job.
What I signed up for. Thank you then.
Okay. That's it.
Councilman Williams.
Not to correct you, Mr. Mayor, but on the west side, we call that street Mance Mansour, not Mansour.
Oh.
And we don't,
I'll remember that.
and we don't eat great pecan over there.
I must have picked that up on my
You
French
picked it up
class.
on the east side.
My French class. Picked it up on the east side. Yeah, right, okay, thank you very much. Just a couple things, again, Red Brick Nights, huge success, everybody involved, city staff, volunteers throughout the community, involved with that, North Church, again, start of another great Red Brick Night season, but, really, really super. The citizens should know that we went through a council orientation, focused for the new council members, but all the councilmen were invited, and many of us were here. There were representatives that have done this orientation at cities throughout the state for 15 or 20 years, I believe they said, and complimented the city on the quality of the orientation that is given for new members of the council, as well as complimented the city for many of the processes that it does in place. In fact, you said that we could definitely be a model for other cities throughout the state. So I think that is good for people that see other community city councils in operation from a close-up standpoint. And I think this coming Saturday, believe that there is activity down at our incubator shops.
Yes.
We have some jazz going on, I think about 7 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
It's a great opportunity, again, for the community to come out, almost in a Red Brick Night environment, but also to see these incubators and up close and have some fun.
So the shops will not be open on Saturday. We have, the shops being open has been a little bit of a contentious spot. So with the Public Works crew doing all of the labor in-house, we were allowing the vendors, the folks who are leasing the facilities, to use the facilities prior to completion as a courtesy for a soft opening. Well, we ran into a couple of issues with moving the vendors in and out for one-day events. So what we're looking at now, after the Red Brick Nights in May, we postponed any more activity inside the physical shop buildings until Red Brick Nights in July, which Tenny hopefully will be finished. His guys have been out there every day. So I think they're down to paint at this point, paint and floor.
Painting the flooring and installing HVAC systems.
Okay, so HVACs are still active. So, the goal is Red Brick Nights in July, and that's when they'll open back up and will be open. So.
Okay, all right. But there will be a festival activity there this Saturday with jazz music and,
That's correct.
so, public's invited, come down and see that. Another good opportunity, come on downtown Guthrie, America.
What time will that start?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, okay.
7 o'clock. Anything?
Yeah, I had one other thing. Given the fact that we're doing a lot of these sort of changes to zoning for infill, I just was wondering if we could look at sort of the plans. I think if you look broadly at what's going on in Oklahoma City, in, for example, south of Class and Curve and the infill that they're doing there, and putting in multi-family sort of units, I think that's something that's worth exploring. And also looking at sort of, the trend in terms of the aesthetics of those buildings. So that was the other thing, and I forgot. I should have written it down. Sorry.
Maybe we could work towards a workshop on that down the road. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Dan has been very proactive in trying to move the zoning code forward, revisions, et cetera. I haven't had the capacity to be a part of that yet. So at some point here relatively soon, we will get to work on that, look at those overlay districts. You'll see increased density, just like in the zoning change you approved tonight. You've got 2 dwellings on 3 original lots, but it's 1 lot now. So we're definitely on board with heading towards infill density.
Okay.
And remember, you only have 5 minutes to talk about this, okay?
It shouldn't take more than
Anybody else? We're adjourned. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.